virtual meeting. Whatever little I could see in the display in front of me, I can see people of great eminence, people who, of course, know more than me, people who, of course, are more experienced than me. So as a humble Karyakarta, I submit myself to you, to Pragna Bharati. A great namaskar to all of you. Namaskar to Sri Shirish ji, namaskar to Sri Srikant ji, and of course, I was hearing to Sri Padma Sri Hanuman Chaudhary ji. And in fact, Hanumanji was quite apt when he said, he in fact summed up the problem in 2 lines. And he spoke about the demography, and in second line itself, he said that, well, this is the problem. And I would say, when I was listening to Shirish ji, he spoke about 4 Ps. For 1 P, that is the problem, Pragya Bharati is thinking about how to solve them through 4 Ps. And I believe the 5th P, which is extremely important, which is required by all the Hindus, is the 5th P, that is the Pragya. Pragya meaning Buddhi, Pragya meaning intellect. And I firmly believe that the kind of changes that we are seeing all around us, may Lord Jagannath give us Pragya, may Lord Venkateshwara give us Pragya, so that we democratically, in fact, keeping in view the demography of this country, change government so that security of our motherland, Bharata, is never jeopardized in the future. Friends, as far as the problems of Bengal are concerned, I would be reminded of the great saying, which we all heard years ago, and which is still relevant to some extent, but not to its complete extent, that what Bengal thinks today, India thinks tomorrow. But I'm saddened to say that, in fact, as far as this saying is concerned, as far as this phrase is concerned, most of it has been lost. I'm saddened to see that Bengal is marred by violence. It is now corruption, a story of corruption. It's political vendetta, which is written almost everywhere on all the walls of Bengal's politics. It is economic stagnation. In fact, stagnating the very essence of Bengal, which was a liberating feature once upon a time in the history of India. It's unrest in Bengal. So astonishingly, ironically, and very sadly, we have lost the gist that what was once called as Bengal and what is Bengal today. And what we saw a few days ago, in the evening of 2nd of May, when the results were announced and when it was clear that TMC is moving towards a big victory, what we saw on the streets of West Bengal was gory violence, was something which shook the very credibility of India's democracy to its root. The attack was inhuman. And it was not the only state. Bengal was not the only state which was having its elections results declared. It was not the only state which has gone into election this phase. But we had 5 states, 4 other states apart from Bengal. We had Assam, we had Puducherry, and we have other states also. We had Kerala, we had Tamil Nadu. But in none of these states, the transition of power was a problem. And remember, Assam is a state which has seen insurgency. Assam is a state which has seen counterinsurgency. Despite that, we saw a smooth transition of power in Assam. We never saw any problem, any violence in Assam. But ironically, we saw that in Bengal. And that's the reason as to why I would say it is something which is extremely worrisome. Friends, this violence in Bengal was state-sponsored, which we need to often repeat this. We need to often say this, that this violence was state-sponsored. Why was? It is state-sponsored, which is even still now continuing. Mamata Banerjee is complicit in it. The state is complicit in it. And in fact, as someone rightly pointed out, the deafening silence surrounding this violence is something which can be almost heard. Silence can be heard. So deafening is the silence. Complicity is of almost everyone: media, the administration, some of the highest, I would say, bodies of this country, including the political bodies, the bodies which dispense justice and law to this country. And astonishingly, as a spokesperson, I have compared this often, that when Hathras happened in Uttar Pradesh, media as vulture descended on Uttar Pradesh. They in fact came with their tents and wherewithal to stay there to focus there, and to, in fact, every inch and every square of the news was under the heavy scrutiny of the Indian media, leave aside Indian media, the foreign glare as well. But here in Bengal, when hundreds were being, atrocities against hundreds were being injured, 30 karyakartas of Bharatiya Janata Party, in fact, died. There was no such scrutiny by the Indian media. And ironically, when we used to be in TV channels, the oft-asked question to us was, is this fake, Sambit? Or is it real? Or is it true? And I, out of frustration, would say, why don't you go to the ground and for yourself see what is fake and what is true? Because when in Hathras or in any other Bharatiya Janata Party ruled state, there is an unfortunate incident of lynching in which the Bharatiya Janata Party has nothing to do. Ironically, all of you rush there and investigate. But in Bengal, we have all chosen to be silent. And remember, as far as Bengal is concerned, we have to, if we really want to understand the problem of Bengal, we have to travel a bit far. Pre-independence Bengal saw a conglomerate of Congress and Muslim League. We saw as to how it was dominated by the Muslim League, pre-independence Bengal. We are also aware of the Direct Action Day, as to how on 16th of August 1946, there was a call. The call by the Muslim League, called by Jinnah, to take on the Hindus on the streets so that Bengal surrenders to the demand of whole of Bengal being conceded to Pakistan. From pre-independence era to post-independence era, while it was Muslim League which was dominant, then it was the Congress Party, the leftists, that's the left party, and then the TMC which was dominant in the post-independence era. But Hindus were the casualty in both the era. Be it the Muslim League, be it the TMC, the communists, or the Congress. They've only eaten into the Hindus. They have only bullied the Hindus, and the Hindus had to face the violence and the tune of music as far as politics in Bengal is concerned. Respected sirs, I should also, in fact, mention the virtues of Bengal. From where has Bengal traveled this far and what Bengal has become today? Remember, Bengal has contributed to the growth of India in more than one ways, not in one way, but more than one ways. Economically, spiritually, revolution-wise, reforms and vision-wise, Indian science, and of course, as far as Sangha Parivar and BJP is concerned, the contribution of Bengal has been immense. Financial capital, in fact, almost till 1937, I would say Bengal was one of the financial capitals of India. We had, in fact, the establishment of one of the most important cities of the British Empire. It was one of the core cities of the British Empire. Until 1911, 1911, it was the Indian capital, the financial capital. And in fact, till 1937, you would be astonished to know that RBI's headquarters, Reserve Bank of India's headquarters, were in Kolkata, which later in 1937 probably shifted to Mumbai. Some of the topmost industrialists, manufacturers, and I would say contributors in trading were Ramdulal De, Dwarkanath Tagore. I'm reminded of Motilal Seal and Mr. Mitra, Digambar Mitra. They were some of the tall leaders as far as financial sector is concerned. But today, astonishingly, we hardly hear anyone from Bengal contributing in the field of finance. Rather, when the communist rule was on, the famous saying, as Mr. Arun Jaitley often used to put it, where there is nothing left of economy, is something which Bengal saw. Downfall of economy and finances, trading and licensing, and manufacturing in Bengal. Spiritual gurus, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Vivekananda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Baba Loknath, Anukul Chandra Thakur, a slew of liberators we had from Bengal. Reformers and visionaries. We in fact celebrated the Jayanti of Raja Ram Mohan Rai a couple of days ago. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Rabindranath Thakur, and Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, to mention a few. Revolutionaries, Bagha Jatin, Rashbi Bose, Master Da Surya Senji, Subhash Chandra Bose, Rabindranath Thakur, some of them Aurobindo Da, some of them have been immense contributors as far as revolution is concerned. Similarly, in Indian science, we cannot forget and discount the name of Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose. As far as Sangha Parivar and BJP is concerned, we have a founder from Bengal, Shama Prasad Mukherjee. And it's a great, I would say, not a coincidence, but rather it's a matter of fortune that Dr. Hedgewar, the founder of RSS, and him, whom we all look as a great revered personality in Indian history, in fact, has his playing grounds of his pragya, I would say, in his initial day in Bengal, while he was a student of Bengal Medical College and Anushilan Samiti, he had joined there in Bengal. Similarly, Guruji, in fact, Guruji took Diksha from Swami Akhandananda, who was a direct disciple of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So we in BJP and we in Sangha have a great contribution from Bengal. And in fact, we have lots to thank from Bengal. And that's the reason as to why to preserve Bengal is essentially one of the most important tasks that we have upon our shoulders. And we have to work as the soldier of the party and the Vichar Parivar to see to it that what we have gained from Bengal is never lost. What are the paradoxes of Bengal? Because if we discuss the problems of Bengal, the paradoxes of Bengal in a historical perspective have also to be seen. Look at the paradox of Bengal. Bengal, in fact, has traveled from one of the most important, I would say, philosophy of visionaries to the ideology of Naxalism. I mean, at one end, we had visionary, great deal of visionarism. And the other end, we had Naxalism. In the 1970s, we literally lost one generation of Bengal's youth, Bengal's power, culture to Naxalism. Similarly, Bengal traveled from cradle of being the cradle of nationalism, the awakener, I would say, of Hindu phenomena, to being the state in which provided sanctuary to the communists for almost 3 decades. Just imagine, from nationalism to being the cradle, where in fact Marxism and leftist ideology strived for 3 decades. These are, of course, issues which has to be thought of with great consequence. And of course, I'm often, in fact, left to think as to why many of these leftist leaders, when they return from exile, while they were not exiled, rather, they have chosen East Pakistan, East Bengal, after partition to be their playfield for politics. But when they return because of atrocities, they never spoke against the atrocities that the Hindus had to face there. Rather, they chose to be quiet. They never were vocal about the fact that their secularism could never win over the Islamist tendencies, the Islamist atrocities that they had to face in Pakistan. And in fact, just as Baba Sahib Ambedkar was the first law minister of India, the first law minister of Pakistan was also from Bengal, Mr. Mondal, if I'm right. And he had to return back within a short span because of the atrocity, but none of them spoke the truth despite being refugees in India. It's an irony. 3 partitions. Bengal literally saw 3 partitions. 1905 by Lord Curzon. The partition which was to mar the Swadeshi movement, to partition which was to kill the nationalism feeling. Well, of course, it was to be annulled and it was to be taken back in 1911, but it had its own repercussions. Similarly, the partition of 1947 had a huge, I would say, consequence as far as refugees were concerned, the Hindu refugees who came from the other side. And similarly, in 1971, in fact, when Bangladesh was liberated from Pakistan, and we had from East Pakistan to to Bangladesh, it had a great deal of turmoil in that area. So these 3 partitions has had a carving structure, a carving means, I would say, as far as Bengal is concerned. So this has to be kept in mind when we are discussing the problems of Bengal. Remember, it was in view of these partitions that the founding father of Bharatiya Janata Party and one of the stalwarts of Bengal's political architect, Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee, who was initially in favor of a unified Bengal, after 1905, changed gears. He and Hindu Mahasabha, in fact, spoke for a divided Bengal. They wanted West Bengal apart from East Bengal because they felt that that was the only way of saving the Hindus. The only way the real Bengali culture and the Hindu culture, the Sanatana culture can be saved was to have a partition, because initially they always felt that partition was not required. And I remember I've oft read about N.C. Chatterjee's statement. N.C. Chatterjee was the Hindu Mahasabha's president, father of well-known Somnath Chatterjee. I mean, how poles apart can father and son be? So N.C. Chatterjee on 4th of April 1947 said, and I quote, "Our demand for partition today is to prevent the disintegration of the nationalist element and to preserve Bengal's culture and to secure a homeland for the Hindus of Bengal, which will constitute a national state as part of India." I'm proud that we had such stalwart leaders who really thought for the future, who had such forward-looking thought process. But ironically, when I read this today, what N.C. Chatterjee said, what Shama Prasad Mukherjee said, we are losing it out. The Hindus, for which, in fact, the West Bengal was supposed to be the sanctuary, a preserving sanctuary for their culture, for Sanatana culture, astonishingly, because of the petty-mindedness of the present-day politician, is fast slipping for our hands from our grip. This is the major problem, and the solution for this needs to be found. Friend, if you look into the political history of Bengal, from 1937 to 1947, it was mostly the Congress Party and the Muslim League. From 1952, when the first Lok Sabha elections took place, 52 to 67, it was the Congress Party. From 67 to 77, it was the United Front and the National and the Naxalist movement, mostly led by the left fronts. From 77 to 97, unhindered communism, Communist Party and the Left Party. From 1997 to 2006, it was the rise of TMC gradually. From 2007 to 2016, it was dominance of TMC, unprecedented dominance of TMC. And from 2016 till today, that is 2021, it is gradual rise of power of Bharatiya Janata Party. I would say that rather than addressing that this is a loss of Bharatiya Janata Party, this should be addressed as a gradual rise of power of Bharatiya Janata Party. Friends, while discussing the problems and solutions of West Bengal, one of the most important things that we really need to bear in the mind is that West Bengal as a geographical entity, a geographical piece of land, is situated such that it is of great national importance as far as security is concerned. It is of great national security importance, sharing almost, I would say, 2,216 kilometers of border with Bangladesh, and most of these border is riverine. So it's quite easy for the ones to infiltrate, quite easy for ones to come to India. Similarly, we have the Chicken Neck, the Siliguri corridor, if you see, a 22-kilometer structure, 22-kilometer land bridge, which acts as a chicken neck. And if you would remember, there was someone called as Sarjil Imam. And this happened during the CAA, anti-CAA protest and in Shaheen Bagh. If you would remember, there was someone called as Sarjil Imam from JNU, and this guy, Sarjil Imam, had given out a call that, so what happens if 5 lakh Muslims block this chicken neck and they decide that they cut off the northeast of India from rest of India? What happens if these Muslims block the chicken neck and they don't allow the Indian army to take a train or any other means of transport and go to the northeast of India? And astonishingly, the background that we have, this side, if you would see this side, the map of Bengal is fantastically demonstrated. And you would see here, the chicken neck is evident. This is what Sarjil Imam articulated, which is in the minds and back of the minds of most of the people who in fact tend to play with national security, that the chicken neck is to be done away with. And I remember we had a governor called as Rajeshwarji way back in 1989-90 in Bengal, who had given a beautiful demographic picture of Bengal, who had said as to how these border belt zones, the border belt areas of Bengal, the border districts of Bengal, they are gradually converting demographically. And some of the most important ones being the South and North 24 Pargana. We have Dinajpur, the North Dinajpur, we have Malda, we have Murshidabad, we have Nadia. So all these districts, the demography is such that We have the population of the Hindus migrating from the villages, gradually coming to town because of the demographic changes, and most of these villages surrounding the towns becoming inhabited by the Bangladeshi infiltrators. Such is the importance of infiltration. And in fact, way back in 1989, Governor Rajeshwar presented a picture, and you can presented a paper, and you can go to the paper. It is available publicly. He said that of the 294 seats, there were 52 such seats in Bengal, which are directly and decisively decided by the Bangladeshi infiltrators. And there are 100 such seats, which in fact has a great deal of influence by the Bangladeshi infiltrators. Just imagine 152 seats, 52 decisively, and 100 had great amount of influence. So these are the seats which has great deal of influence from Bangladeshi infiltrators. So just imagine if it was a story way back in 1989, what would be the story presently? How acute this problem would be in present day situation. Friends, to add to this, Indians never have learned from the history. Hindus have never learned from the history, radicalization, and seeing these infiltrators as vote bank. To normalize these infiltrators, to normalize the process of infiltration is something which has been core of the polity of West Bengal. Be it the Congress, be it the Communist Party, be it TMC. The only rule that they have followed is let them walk in, let them become the most important populace, and let the demography be the destiny. Demography be the destiny is something which has become the touchstone of decision as far as democratic decision making is concerned in Bengal. And this is quite harsh reality. This, I would say, is a dangerous reality, which despite all of us knowing it, not most of us, all of us knowing it, we still are not arising, awaking, and marching to protect our motherland, to protect Bengal. Friends, if you would remember in 2010, in Degonga, Degonga is a place in Chobbis Pargana North, Uttar Chobbis Pargana. There was atrocities against the Hindus, and Hindus were killed because of this politics. And I categorically remember way back in March 2013, 16 Islamic organizations, Islamic bodies, they had come together and they had marched to Kolkata. And in a ground in Calcutta, they had then held a demonstration against Bangladesh's government, because Bangladesh's government was prosecuting those who were responsible for the 1971 genocide. And one of the most important being, if you would remember, Dilawar Hussain Saidi. Dilawar Hussain Saidi being the vice president of Jamaat-e Islami Bangladesh. Jamaat-e Islami Bangladesh, Saidi, Dilawar Hussain Saidi. He is an anti-rabid Hindu, he's a totally rabid anti-Hindu. He is anti-Indian. He has been for the genocide of the Hindus in Bangladesh in 1971. But despite all this, we had lakhs of people conglomerating in 2013 supporting Saidi. This shows the mindset. This shows what the destiny of demography is. And in fact, the call that time was Sheikh Hasina will not be allowed to India if she wants to come to India. Just as we drove away Taslima Nasreen from Bengal, just as we did not allow others who were anti-Islam to Bengal. Rushdie, one of the writers, was not allowed to Bengal. We will not allow the Bangladesh premier to come to India. That was the kind of mindset. That is the amount of radicalization, political radicalization, I would say, under political patronage that had happened in Bengal, and that's still continuing. In 2014, as recent as 2014, you would remember there was a bomb blast in Bardwan. That was a bomb blast in one of the Karyakartas of TMC's home, the home of one of the TMC's Karyakarta in Bardwan. It was a bomb-making factory for Jamaatul Mujahideen. Jamaatul Mujahideen. And it was all across the news. Despite that, the NSA went there, the National Security Advisor of India went there, looking into terror propensities. Mamata Banerjee comes out and says that, look, Modi government is trying to divert attention. It was the handiwork of the central agencies to demean Bengal and to bring back repute to Bengal. Such is the petty politics. And despite everyone knowing the truth, no one wants to stand with the truth. That's the problem. And in 2021 also, the post-poll violence, there was a huge element of the radical Islamists taking on the Hindus who had supported the Bharatiya Janata Party. Even the Muslims, minuscule they may be, who had supported Bharatiya Janata Party were not spared. And it's not new in Bengal politics, the cycle of violence. Let me remind you of Naxalism. Charu Majumdar, as to how there was a whole, I would say, almost a generation which was lost to Naxalism, the fantasy that a generation had towards Naxalism. And it was in the 70s that institutionalization of violence took place in Bengal. Thereafter, if you would remember, some of the gory incidents, Sai Bari case, those from Bengal asked them, Sai Bari case, two brothers of Congress party, in fact, were butchered by CPIM leaders in 1970 in their home, and their mother made to eat the rice, which was mixed with the blood of their both sons. She literally lost her mental balance and died after about a decade. Such was the gory violence in West Bengal, the political violence. The Marijapi case. The Marijapi case in 1979, if you remember, the left government, Jyoti Basu's government, which had promised that if we come to power, we would see to it that the Hindu refugees who came from East Pakistan would be allowed to settle. And when in fact they came to power, and these people, these refugees were settling on an island called as Marijapi, they were all brutally butchered by the people of left, by the Karyakartas of left in 1979. Literally 10,000 people lost their lives. And more than 300 Karyakartas of Bharatiya Janata Party over a period of time have lost their lives. If you would remember, the Anand Margis had started coming up during the left regime, and the way 17 of their sannyasis were burnt alive in 1982, April 1982, if I'm right with my memory, in Kolkata. They were burnt alive, and not a single person was held, as yet has been held accountable for this gory and, I would say, butchery affair. 300 Karyakartas of Bharatiya Janata Party, and if you would see the panchayat elections, in fact, astonishingly, in 2000, we had 76 dead. In 2008 panchayat elections, we had 18 dead. In 2013 panchayat election, we had 39 dead, if I'm right. And in 2018 panchayat election, the recent ones, we had 29 dead. And remember, most of these seats were left. 34% of seats went uncontested. Such was the amount of violence that Bengal saw. So political violence is ingrained there. And after the counting of 2021, the kind of atrocity, the kind of violence that has been unleashed upon the Karyakartas of Bharatiya Janata Party, unleashed upon the Vichar Parivar, is something which we all have visualized, which we all have seen. Almost 30 Karyakartas have been lost. And the question which is being asked, what we have done, the MHA had, in fact, on 5th of May itself wanted a report. And when the report did not come, in fact, a team from Delhi went to collect the report to see to it what the ground situation was. And we had seen as to how one of our ministers, Mr. Muralidharan's car was also attacked. Not a single word of condemnation from any of the ministers, leave aside the Chief Minister of Bengal. The Supreme Court has taken cognizance of one of the PILs, not PIL exactly, a petition filed by one of the deceased members of Bharatiya Janata Party, Abhijit Sarkar, who is a deceased. His brother had filed a petition, and taking that into account, a call for investigation has been ordered by Supreme Court. The governor has been spoken to by none other than the Prime Minister. Manya Dattaji had also visited Kolkata and West Bengal, has visited the Vichar Parivar, has visited many people who have been affected by these atrocities. The National Human Rights Commission, the National Women's Commission, all of them have been doing their part. Well, yes, these are all parts of the solution, that the solution lies with only one thing: arise, awake, and march till our democratic right is not achieved. Very rightly put by Hanumanji, we had to get 51 votes out of 65 people, to put it very simply. That means more than 80%, more than 85% of achievements. Well, yes, the other side is ready to do that, but this side still needs enlightenment. How much more time before the real enlightenment comes is the question. The solution lies in the mind of every Hindu to understand the reality, to, to, to know what the reality is. If the mind is not awake, politics will never awake. Thank you so much. Bharat Mata ki Jai.
Ayush ji, you can unmute yourself.
So there have been, Sambit ji, thank you for a lucid explanation of the situation in Bengal. There have been a lot of questions that have come via SMS. Yeah, he's Raghuji, unmute him, Sambit ji. Sambit ji, you are muted. 1 second. Raghuram ji, can you unmute Sambit ji?
Yeah, and he has unmuted me. With your permission, can I make one important phone call, because I've received phone call from my Adhyaksh ji. I will just make one phone call. I'll mute myself, make one phone call, and then join the meeting. You please continue with the question. I'm hearing you in the other ear. 1 year, I will just take this call also. I'll be here. I'll be here in front of you. Just one call. I'll make one phone call. You continue with your questions.
मला नाही म्यूट చేసుకోవచ్చా? Yeah, Sambit ji. So there have been a series of questions that have come, and the question that tops in terms of number of times it has come is about the center's role in imposition of Article 356 when there is so much of mayhem and murder of Hindus, including BJP Karyakartas. Why is the government not imposing president's rule?
Yeah. So you want me to take all the questions and then answer, or one by one I should be answering?
Yeah, I think this is the most important, and okay, I can tell you the rest of the questions also.
Yeah.
The second is about Rohingyas and the infiltration of Bangladeshis Rohingyas, what the government is doing to stop it, and with the sympathetic government in the state, how does it plan to root out the Rohingyas there? Third is about the financial support for legal jihad, and of course love jihad. That's another question, and including that they've asked, considering that the other side is fighting an unconstitutional battle, or they're using unconstitutional means, how are we going to fight this constitutionally? The fourth question that has come up is about the media, about did we fail in bringing the ruthless happenings in Bengal to people's notice? And is it also because there's a huge foreign funding in the media that they don't see the truth? There's one more suggestion about why should BJP leaders continue to call Mamta ji as Didi when she is so anti-Hindu? Does that not lead to losing the fighting spirit? There is one more suggestion on whether it's considering that there is a good majority in the center, should the international borders they not be under a central administration as making them as union territories? Primarily, these are the key questions that have come up.
So you want me to answer them now, if I'm allowed? Okay. So I will take up the questions. So the most important question, which I expected, of course, and which was in the media also trending, and we were trolled for that. Why no president rule in West Bengal? What the central government is doing? See, I'll be very pragmatic and very frank over here, because you all are people of Vichardhara. You understand everything. You're my seniors. The problem with us is we ask so many questions, but we do so little. While the other side does not ask a single question, they just do. And this has been happening since years and years and years and ages. We have been engaged in all kinds of debates, discussions, questions, and answers, while the other side never debates and discusses. They just do. So, well, I firmly believe debate discussions are extremely important for democracy, but then doing is doing is the crux of everything else. If you don't do, only debate and discuss, then nothing happens. Secondly, see, I'm the national spokesperson of a political party, so everything I would not be able to, despite the number of things that are buried in my heart and I want to really speak it out. But I will not be able to speak it out in a public forum, because this meeting is also a public forum. You saw what happened to Baba Ramdev ji a couple of days ago. Baba Ramdev was in one such forum, and where he was reading out from the message of a person, that allopathic doctor, etc., etc., whatever he said was wrong. He was reading it out of a message. Someone had sent him that message and he was reading out. One part of it was deleted, that he was reading it out from the message of one Rakesh ji. And the other part of it became viral, that allopathic doctors are stupid and they don't know how to practice, and people are dying because of medicine, and he had to apologize. So we have to be very careful when we are answering these very sensitive questions, because at the end of the day, I represent a party which is in governance. So I will go around the bush, but I will still try to answer. See, as far as what the central government is doing, please have faith on the central government. We have some of the best leadership right now, and I have been working with them since long, and I have seen their passion for Bharat Mata. As far as Modi ji, Amit Shah ji are concerned, do we have better choice than them in India as far as protecting the interest of Bharat Mata is concerned? I would not say any group, but I would say Bharat Mata's interest. I don't think we have any better choice than the people's name I had mentioned, the leaders that we have. So as has been said, कुछ जान के चलो, कुछ मान के चलो. ये जान के चलो कि इससे अच्छा लीडरशिप नहीं हो सकता है, और कुछ मान के चलो, वो कुछ कर रहे हैं जो आपको पता नहीं है, ये मान के चलो. वो सब कुछ बता नहीं सकते हैं ना, ये मान के चलो कि कुछ कर रहे हैं. और क्या कर रहे हैं, सब कुछ वो आर्टिकुलेट करने लगेंगे तो वो कर ही नहीं सकते हैं, नंबर वन. And remember, when the problem is so humongous, it has been in the fore, it existed since so long, since ages, I would say. The solution does not come overnight. The solution comes gradually. So please be patient also. President rules, etc., are certain things which are technical. I will not go into the technicality, because we cannot have a perpetual president rule there. So you have to find a problem which is a solution which is everlasting, long lasting. To this, my answer is a spiritual answer and a technical answer. The spiritual answer is no problem at the end of the day has a solution. Krishna came, Sri Rama came, all our avatars came to give us the solution to the worst problems of the world. But still we have the problems. For a time being, all these problems vanished for a time being, but still we have the problems. So we have to learn one thing, the fighting spirit. Whether we will have a solution tomorrow or not is a separate issue, but whether I am the Arjuna or not, whether I have picked up my Gandiva or not, whether I am one of those who is contributing towards the solution or not is extremely important. The problem is most of us want others to be the solution, while we only debate, discuss, and participate. That is it. My simple submission over here is, you may be old, you may be fragile, you may be too young, you may not be educated, but contribute it as best as you can. Someone can sit in the home within the confines because he or she is diabetic, cannot come out, but can write a beautiful piece of article. Please contribute that ways. Someone can be very rich and contribute financially. Do that. So whatever, just as when Durga descended on this earth, every Devi and Devata contributed the best Ayudha one had to Durga to fight and kill Mahishasura. Please let us contribute something to the people who are fighting for the cause. Let's not just be the ones who want to debate and discuss and finish everything else. That is the thing. I also don't want to call her Didi. Personally, if you would see, I call her Mamata. I don't call her Didi. And I would suggest this to the party also. We should not call her Didi, nor should we call her PC. Because PC, because you are not from Bengal. PC means brothers. My father's sister, PC ma, PC. If you would see, most of the time we were tweeting PC and Bhaipo, PC and Bhaipo. Bhaipo is Abhishek Banerjee. Bhaipo means a brother's son, and PC means my father's sister. So addressing Mamata Banerjee as my father's sister or Didi is something which is only giving her credibility. In fact, is pushing some kind of relationship development of the people of Bengal with Mamata Banerjee, which I believe we should avoid. I buy this idea, and I myself was thinking of giving this idea to the party. I will do this whenever I get my next opportunity to do so. What are we doing for Rohingyans? What are we doing for financial support of the jihad, love jihad, etc., etc.? One step gradually. Remember, there are 1,001 things that needs to be done. Ram Mandir had to be built, done. 370 had to be removed, removed. How do we do about the Rohingyans? CAA has been brought in. You saw what kind of repercussions that we saw in many states, and the whole of people, I mean, the gangs of people coming down in the streets as far as CAA, Shaheen Bagh, etc. is concerned. We are still dealing with it. Still, the rules are to be formulated, and still, without violence, this has to go ahead. So it's not that the government is not doing, but then it is a slow one by one step, which I believe the government is moving in. Many NGOs which were contributing towards all these bizarre kind of activities, their financial support from the foreign lands have been curtailed. Many still are in pipeline, which would be done. These all things are being done. My only humble submission, I know the questions are almost over. These are the questions. My only submission is Shraddha, Saburi. Have Shraddha, that is have faith, and Saburi is have patience. And please contribute as best as you can for this cause. Have no doubt in the mind, because doubt only kills. Thank you.
One more question that came up, Sambitji, is about people living in other parts of the country. How can they contribute to this awareness? Apart from writing articles and fundraising, is there something else that we should be doing?
See, most of you should be in social media. Number one, you, your family, your children, those who are active in social media, they should all be contributing by writing in the social media. It is a great influencer globally today. So please influence the globe by being active in social media. A financial contribution to the people who have lost their lives in Bengal. You have lost 30 karyakartas. So Pragna Bharati can form, must have also done. I mean, you can form a small, I would say, crowdfunding body. You can have crowdfunding and you can support some of these families for a while, or for some of those who have lost their parents, their kids, their education, etc., can be looked after. I mean, this can be a big game changer. So I think these are small ways by which we can contribute. Not everyone needs to go out to the battlefield and fight. There are nurses required, the doctors required. I mean, not literally, but metaphorically. All these requirements are there. So people in Hyderabad, people in other parts of Telangana can sit afar off and yet contribute, I believe. So once you start thinking as to how you want to contribute, there will be 1,001 ways which will crop up as to how you can contribute.
This alignment about Jai Shri Ram versus Chandi Part, is it also leading to any differences within Shakteya, and is there leading to any issue there?
Though I believe it is, but I firmly believe that I should not be articulating it. That's the problem with us, you know. We are divided into so many sects, you know. I mean, if you would see, when the election is declared in any state, see, I have been, and I was listening to, I was dropping when you did not start the program, I joined somewhere around 4:45, and an elderly lady was asking whether I can understand Telugu completely. So someone was asking whether he would speak in Telugu or whether he would speak in other language. And then you all said that he would speak in English or Hindi. So I could understand, I can completely understand Telugu. So I have spent a considerable time of my life in Andhra Pradesh, undivided Andhra Pradesh. And let me be very free. And if you allow me, I want to be outspoken here on this platform. I'm sorry to state, there is no state in this country, barring a few, which does not have this caste system. I was in Andhra Pradesh. I had taken admission in Andhra Pradesh Medical College, Osmania Medical College initially, before I came to Orissa. And you would be astonished. We had Kappu Medic get together, we have Kamma get together, we had Naidu get together. We did not have semester system get together. What is this? Please, if we are Jadavas, if we are Jats, if we are Gujars, if you are Brahmanas, if you are Thakurs, if you are Kappu, we are Kamma, then how will we fight and protect the Sanatana at all? We will never be able to protect the Sanatana when they are so united. How can we protect Sanatana? And I speak this from my heart. Any more question, please? And hopefully I did not offend anyone. I did not mean to offend anyone, but it is the truth.
One more is about whether division of Bengal, the way it happened in Jammu Kashmir, will that be a solution for containing extremism?
No, 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 no. I mean, this is blasphemy to think that division of a state. I mean, this was repetition of 1947 then. Then we are creating further problems rather than solutions. And this would be the gate opening ceremony for all other states to follow. That's not the solution. And as I said, there are things which cannot be spoken of outrightly on a public platform, but there are things within the heart which is really very painful. We are in fact, we are to be blamed. We are to be blamed. We all, each one of us. No one, the forces which lie outside are never to be blamed. The forces inside are to be blamed.
Thank you, Sambit. You have answered all the questions. Actually, I mean, other questions are all a combination of the same questions.
Thank you.
Over to Srikanji. Srikanji.
Thank you very much, Sambit Patraji, for your time, insights, and this is actually reassuring to many of us who are really agitated and who are actually pestering our adhikaris with lot of questions. So I'm glad you came down and you answered, and also you put us some roadmap what to do and how we can do the things. And for all the audience, అందరికీ ధన్యవాదాలు. ఈ సమయంలో మీరందరూ వచ్చి ఇక్కడ వారి అమూల్యమైన విషయాలు అన్ని విన్నారు. చాలా మంది కొత్త వాళ్ళు ఉన్నారు. ప్లీజ్ గెట్ ఇన్వాల్వ్డ్ ఇన్ మెనీ యాక్టివిటీస్. We invited a lot of new people, sir. So we hope there will be very active in Pragna Bharati and other platforms. Right now, we all will do Shraddhanjali for the departed souls in West Bengal, our own bandhus, followed by Shanti Mantra by Kiranji. Please, everybody, we will do this Shraddhanjali.
Om Purnamada पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Dhanyawad to all. The meeting concludes here. I am opening.
Yes, I think right now, Raghuji, you can open it for greetings and
Yeah, I opened. Now they can unmute themselves.
People after a long time they are seeing each other, so probably we can say hello and all. Next time, जी आपका बौद्धिक तेलुगु में लगाएंगे.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
అందరికీ
sir.
నమస్కారం.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Dr. Sambit Patra ji and Pragna Bharati members for providing such a good platform. So I really congratulate everyone, and also by the Dr. Sambit Patra